The wind had teeth that night, biting through pine and bone alike, and Caleb Turner was just banked low by the fire when the knock came, hesitant at first, then firmer, as if whoever stood outside was gathering the last of their strength, with each sound against the cabin door. He hadn't seen another soul for days, the snow piling high enough to swallow tracks as soon as they were made, and his first instinct was caution, because the frontier taught men to weigh kindness carefully when survival was thin. Still, something in the knock, too weak to be a threat, too desperate to ignore, pulled him to his feet. When he opened the door, the cold rushed in like a living thing, and with it stood a native woman wrapped in a worn blanket, her hair braided tight against the wind, her face pale with exhaustion, eyes steady but burning with the kind of resolve born only from necessity. "May I sleep in your cabin, sir?" she asked quietly. "It's freezing outside." Her voice did not beg for pity, it asked for mercy, and Caleb found himself stepping aside before his mind could argue otherwise. The warmth of the fire seemed to shock her as much as the cold had shocked him, and she stood there for a moment, unmoving, as if afraid the kindness might vanish if she reached for it too quickly. Caleb handed her water first, then soup, because hunger and cold were close cousins, and she accepted both with a nod, not gratitude spoken aloud but shown in the careful way she held the bowl, way she did not waste a single drop. Her name was Ayanna, she told him later, after some warmth had returned to her hands, and she had been separated from her people days earlier when a sudden storm scattered their camp, forcing each family to seek shelter where they could. She had walked until her feet bled, followed smoke she thought she imagined, and found his cabin just as the night threatened to take more than she had left to give. Caleb listened, saying little, because listening was a form of respect he had learned the hard way, and as the fire crackled between them, the cabin felt less like a refuge of wood and stone and more like a fragile truce between two lives shaped by the same unforgiving land. He offered her the bed without hesitation, taking the chair for himself, and when she tried to refuse, he shook his head. "You survived the night to get here," he said. "That's reason enough." Outside, the storm raged, but inside, something quieter took hold. A shared understanding that survival was not just about enduring the cold, but about choosing not to turn away when another human stood at your door. If this moment of compassion has drawn you in, subscribe now to continue the story. Morning arrived slowly, gray light filtering through frost-lined windows, and Caleb woke stiff but clear, headed, the events of the night settling into memory like something significant, something that would not be easily forgotten. Ayanna was already awake, sitting near the fire, her posture calm, her movements deliberate as she tended the embers with practiced care, and for a moment Caleb simply watched, struck by how naturally she belonged in the quiet of the cabin, not as a guest or a burden, but as another soul shaped by endurance. Over breakfast they spoke more freely, trading pieces of their lives like careful offerings. Caleb of the ranch, he was trying to keep alive against bad seasons and worse luck. Ayanna of her people's traditions, of knowledge passed not through books, but through stories and hands that remembered the land long before fences claimed it. When the storm finally broke and the sky cleared, Caleb offered to help her search for signs of her camp, and together they rode out, scanning the snow-covered hills for markers only she could recognize. They found them by midday, a broken branch tied with cord, a faint track beneath drifted snow, proof that her people had moved east toward lower ground. Relief softened her expression, but uncertainty lingered, because the journey would still be dangerous, and the land did not forgive easily. Caleb offered supplies without condition: food, a horse if she needed it, and Ayanna accepted what was necessary, refusing excess with quiet dignity. Before they parted, she turned to him, eyes steady. "You did not ask me to leave in the night," she said. "That matters." Caleb nodded, unsure how to answer, because kindness rarely felt like something that deserved thanks. It felt like something that simply had to be done. As she rode away, the cabin seemed larger and emptier all at once, and Caleb understood that some encounters were brief but lasting, not because they promised more, but because they reminded a person who they were capable of being. In the weeks that followed, the land slowly returned to its rhythm, but Caleb carried that night with him, a reminder that survival was strongest when shared, and that compassion, offered freely, could bridge worlds without demanding anything in return. If stories of humanity, courage, and quiet connection matter to you, subscribe to the channel for more powerful Western tales.